Hi everyone, in this video we will introduce AuraPlayer Visualizer. AuraPlayer Visualizer is a web application generator which helps you to quickly develop a web application optimized for mobile devices. That means that the web application will have responsive UI which will perfectly fit any mobile devices that you want to use, either a phone, tablet, and it can also run on any desktop browser. The web application is using pure web technologies. It is based on HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and we're also using the jQuery library. It was designed to use the most lightweight resources that we could find, so it will have great performance when running on a mobile device. The web application generator is optimized to work with AuraPlayer services. And at this point, I would recommend that if you are not familiar with the AuraPlayer services, to go over the trainings that we have on this, as we are going to use some services as part of demoing how to create a new application. This demo also assumes that you have basic web development knowledge, which means basic knowledge in HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and a little bit of jQuery. In this video, we will create a very simple application, a 2 pages application that will work with Oracle EBS Absences module. It will have a login page and then a page that displays a list of absence requests that exist for this user. To work with the Oracle EBS system to get data and send data, I've created a few services that we will be using with this application. For example, a login service to authenticate with the EBS, and a get absences service that will get us the absences, and we will use these services during the process of defining the application. To add a new application, we need to get to the application section and to press the plus sign. This will invoke a 6 steps wizard, which will guide us through the process of creating an application. On the first step, the pages step, we can set the name for the application. So we will call it Demo Absences. We can set a description for a page. And then we have the option to select the type of the application. We have a few options here, but this is a bit of advanced feature. We will discuss it on a later session, and right now we will just keep the default value, which is single page application, one of the standard types for web applications. The version is a field that enables us to manually manage versioning for our application, so we can put here a number, and whenever we change the source of the code of the application, we can change it. The version number will be displayed on the service manager itself, of course, and also on the application itself when it runs, so we can identify exactly which version we are running right now. The next thing would be to define the pages for the application. So I'll press the plus sign, and we decided that we will have 2 pages. We will have the login page and absences page that will display the list of absences. I also need to state to the visualizer which one of the pages that I've defined here is the login page, the entry page. So I'll just select the login page. And let's have a quick look on this pages table. It contains few columns. Some of them are more advanced, so I won't go over each one of them, only on those which are basic and I want to discuss at this video. The others will be discussed in other videos. So we have the page name, and then we have 2 columns here that relates to the menu. What is this menu? Our visualizer automatically generates a hamburger menu, which enables you to navigate between the pages. So for each page, I can say if I want this menu to be displayed on this page, and if I want the page to appear on the hamburger menu, and so the user will be able to directly navigate to it. So for the login page, usually I don't want it to have a menu, and I don't want it to be in the menu, so I'll just uncheck it. The absences page it makes sense that it would have a menu and that it would appear on the menu. The next fields are more descriptive, how many fields are already defined for the page, and we didn't define the page yet, so it is empty. And I also have here an option, a visual option, the padded option. If I set it, it means that the whole content of the page will be centered. For login pages, it makes them look better, so I will just check it. And here I have a few options that I can do on the page. I can edit it, I can duplicate it, rename it, or remove it. Now I'll press the next button to get to the next step, and the next step is to define the application look and feel. This is the theme selection step, and we have 3 out-of-the-box themes that we can start with. So once you select one of the themes, it will be applied to the application, and you can customize the theme and set specific look and feel for your application. That is, for example, specific colors for the title, for the button, etc. We won't get into too much details here because we have a separate session that discusses the theme selection. So right now we will only choose the default theme and get to the next step. And on the next step, it's called the page fields. We will define the fields that will be displayed on the page. This step applies to each of the pages. We have here a list, and right now we are working on the login page, but we can also change it to any other page. And on the pages field, I have the title of the page, which I can change, and I have 2 sections of fields that I can add. The first one is singular fields, and the second one is a table. For the login page, I have 2 fields, the username and the password, so I will press the plus button here on the singular fields section, and I have a few options to add fields to a page. Usually, a page will work with a specific service or few services, and the inputs and the outputs of these services will be the fields that I would like to have on my page. For example, on the login page, which works with the login service, I know that the login service has 2 input fields, so I would need these 2 inputs to be rendered as 2 input fields of the page. So a quick way to add these fields is to choose this option, select fields from a service. I can also have fields one by one as custom fields, but in our case it would be much easier and faster to choose the fields from the relevant service. And the relevant service for us would be the login service, and like I said, it has 2 input parameters. So I'll select them both because I need them both on my page. And now it was added here to the fields table, and there are a few things that I can change. First, I want the username to be the first field and not the second field, so I can just drag it and put it as the first field. I can change the label of the field, so let's remove the field and make it only username and password. I can set a default value. In our case, I don't want any default value. And I can change the data type of the field. By default, the visualizer selects a default data type for each field. For example, for the username, it detected that it is a text field, and for the password field, it detected it is a password field, but I can change it. And for example, I can say that for this field, I don't want it to be text, but I want it to be one of the options that I have here. And I have a whole list of options. I can make it a number, a phone, an email. And we will discuss some of these data types in later sessions. Right now, we will keep it as text field. The next column is to state whether this field is a required field or could be a required field for some actions on this page. And for the login page, both username and password should be required fields when I would press the login button. So it makes sense to mark them as required. The next thing would be whether I want this field to be on a separate line or I want it to stay on the same line as the previous field. I will keep it in this way, which means that on our page, the username and the password field will be on 2 different lines. And of course, I can delete any of the fields if I edit them and I want to remove them. And now I will press the next button and get to the action step. So until now what we did is just defined which fields will be presented on the page. We selected them, we selected the fields from the login service, but we didn't really attach it to the login service. All we did was just to select the fields that we want to be displayed on the page. So now we want to add some logic to the page, and for the login page, we want to add a button that will actually invoke the login service. For that, we go here to the section of the actions, press the plus sign, and we have a few actions that we can add. So here on the event, you can see that we have a few options, and the options that we want to select at this step is the button click, which means to add a button that will invoke, that will have some business logic behind it. So I will select on button click. I will give a title to the button. In our case, it will be login. I can select an icon that will be presented on the button from a library that we have here. I won't select any right now. Here we have the button ID, which is it's for more advanced customization. I don't want to discuss it right now. I can say where I want this button to be located, on the bottom of the page or the top of the page. I will keep it at the bottom, and I can influence the width of the button. It could be 100% of the width or a bit smaller. I will choose 50% and say that I want it to be centered. On the right side, I set the action or the business logic that will be invoked once I will press this button. So I have a few things that I can do. I can execute a service, I can navigate to a different page, or call a custom JavaScript function. Right now we will choose the execute service, and we will select the login service. This is what we want to be invoked when we press the login button. On success, now I need to say what I want to happen once this service is invoked and completes successfully. In our case, I want it to navigate to the next page. So I'll select here navigate to a page and select our next page. And then I have the option to say what will happen on a failure. So the default would be to pop up errors, but I have a few other options here that I can choose. You can go over them and see the options. And the last thing would be to say whether I want this button to validate required fields. In our case, it makes sense that before I press the login button, I want to make sure that the username and the password are filled with values. So I set it as validate required fields, and I press OK. I press the next button, and I'm not getting to the next step, but again to the third step, because I have another page to set up. I only defined the login page, and now I need to set the absences page. So here on the absences, I wanted to present a table, so I'll go here to the table section, press the plus sign, and select the table columns from the get absences service, which is the service that brings the list of absences. You can see here all the available outputs that will be returned by the service. I will select them, and it will add it to the table section as the table columns. And again, I can change the order of them. I can change the label of the fields. I can change the data type. Right now it is read only, but I can also make it editable if I want. And there are many options here that relates to how the table will be populated and behave. We will have a separate session discussing all the options of a table. So we will leave all the defaults right now as it is, and we will go to the next step, setting an action for this page. So again, what we did until now for this page is just saying what would be the table that will be displayed and which columns will be in this table. But we also need to invoke the service that actually brings the data. So we want that when the page loads, it will invoke the service that gets the data. For that, we will add an action. And on the event, we will choose now the onload event. The onload event is the event that occurs when the page loads. And when the page loads, I wanted to execute a service, and the service would be, of course, get absences. And I don't want to do anything on success, I just want it to populate the table, and this will be done automatically. And on failure, I'll keep the default behavior. And I press OK. And that's it. Now I'll get to the next step. This will get me to step 5. It is for a more advanced option that it will be discussed on a later session, so I'll just skip it right now. And the last step is a more informative step. It shows me all the services that are currently linked to the application. This is important because it also means, because on the Service Manager, we know how to manage the relations between the different objects that we have on the Service Manager. And this table says that these services are now linked to the application, which means that if someone will try to delete one of these services, the Service Manager will automatically warn the user and say, this service is linked to an application, be aware, maybe you want to unlink it first, or are you sure that you really want to remove it? So here is a place where we can see the relations between the services, and the application that invokes it. We have some more details here that are more advanced and will be discussed later. I press the finish, and this will generate the application. And as you can see here, I have a new application on my application list. This is the applications table. Let's go over on some of the details here. So I have here the application name, the description, if I set one. I have here the number of services that are currently linked to the application, the number of pages, the version. I have a few actions that I can do on the application, like edit, duplicate, rename, and I can also run it from here. So this is what I'll choose. I'll press the run, and this will open a new tab with the link that I can use to invoke the application. So this is my application. It is already ready and we can work with it. And since it is tuned to mobile devices, and maybe I want to see it on a mobile view, I will use Chrome DevTools to help me with that. I will press the F12. And on Chrome DevTools, I have the option, here it is, the toggle device toolbar. And once it is selected, on the left side, it simulates mobile view. And here I have a list of available views that I can simulate. I can add more here. So this is how it would look on an iPhone. This is how it would look on an iPad. This is how it would look on a Galaxy or whatever. So right now we're simulating iPhone, and we can see how my application will look and work on a mobile device. And if your Service Manager is accessible from an outside network, you can just take this link, put it on your mobile phone, and you will see the application in the same way that you see it here, and you will be able to work with it as you can work with it right now. So this is the login page. I'll add here my credentials. And once I will press the login button, you can see here on the network tab that it invoked the login service. And this will authenticate with the EBS. And once it is returned, it will do what I've set for it. It will navigate to the next page, the absences page, and it will invoke the get absences services to bring the data of the absences table. And now, once we got the data from the EBS system, it will be automatically rendered on my table. And this is how it would look by default and without doing any customizations. So, in this video you saw how we can very quickly create a simple application that works with the legacy system. In our case, it's the EBS system. And we already have an application that we can work it either on a browser on our desktop or from any mobile device. Again, assuming that your Service Manager can be accessed from the outside. The UI of the application is fully responsive, as we explained at the beginning of this demo. So if we will change the device that we are rendering on, for example, go to an iPad, it will automatically adjust itself to fit the new layout. So this application will fit any mobile device that you have and you want to work with. That's it for this demo. On the next session, we will enhance this application and demo more capabilities that we have on the AuraPlayer Visualizer and more advanced options that you can use to add and customize the logic and the look and feel of the application. Thank you.